Hi. Mind if I touch your wiener?
What?
Your dog.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Backlot Banter movie review. My name is Tucker Hazel. I am joined by my co-host who got his car from questionable means. And today, we are here to talk about the raunchy comedy of 2023 summer, No Hard Feelings, a film that was quite buzzed about on the internet, but might not be picking up that traction in the box office. And we're here to give you our thoughts on if this movie deserves the hype that it had, or maybe the lack of box office success that it seems to be having. But Tanner, thank you very much for joining me. But hold your phones. Don't turn that dial. You're gonna want to subscribe to Backlog Banter. You're gonna want to like this video. You're gonna leave a comment telling me what your favorite movie of this summer has been. There's been a few so far. It's getting stacked. And Tanner, we saw No Hard Feelings, sort of I would say somewhat lower key release. We've been back-to-back big franchise releases, and this is just another something completely different. What are your thoughts on No Hard Feelings?
Tucker, as you said, there was a lot of buzz going into No Hard Feelings. It was lauded as the movie that's gonna save studio comedies, the movie that's gonna bring back the raunchy rated R comedy.
Yeah.
And it's got a big headlining star in Jennifer Lawrence. It's got a big summer release date. Its trailer was the most viewed R-rated trailer in YouTube history.
How is that possible? Unclear.
Within like the first day of release or whatever, and it's fine. I think. I think it's fine. It's funny. I think it's entertaining, and it did surprise me in some ways, but I do think that it had a little bit too much importance lumped onto it, and a little bit too much hype lumped onto it for its own good, frankly.
Yeah, and I would say hype that is kind of unfairly positioned, because it's not No Hard Feelings' fault that it suddenly became the highest watched trailer on YouTube for rated R comedies.
Yeah.
I don't know how that happened. I don't know who really pushed that forward, but I don't think they marketed this movie very well. I think they marketed it well to get butts in seats, show the crazy parts, show the romance, show the raunchiness, but that's not really the movie we got. And frankly, I think it's better for that. I actually found myself quite enjoying the ride of No Hard Feelings and really respecting it for not leaning as hard into wackiness and super raunchy comedy moments that the trailer was entirely comprised of. This is much more of an emotional and endearing film about a relationship between two people that I found to be well acted, well written, well paced. And by the end, I'm like, yeah, I really dug that. It wasn't anything extraordinary, but it also wasn't the movie that we were sold as.
That's my thing. That, and this is what I'll say for anyone who has not seen the movie yet, is watching our review. I will warn you and say that, and Tucker, you can maybe disagree with this if you do, but 90 to 95% of the funny bits are all in the trailer. The big punchline moments are all in the trailer. There is one that we won't talk about right now, since we're doing spoiler free or whatever, that they obviously could not put in the trailer.
Yeah.
That is the big raunchy R-rated moment of the film.
Yeah.
But otherwise, all the best parts are in the trailer, and frankly edited together in a much more kinetic and comedic way than we do get in the film, because I found myself a little distanced by the editing of this, because you're right, Tucker, it does take a bit of an odd hand with doing its rated R comedy. It's not as snappy, fast, bit to bit. We're going from punchline to punchline stuff like you might get in I don't know, Superbad or The 40-Year-Old Virgin or whatever people hold up as the crown jewels of rated R comedy of the last 20, 25, 30 years. It is different. It does take its time to build out the relationship between Maddie and, you're gonna have to help me out here,
Tanner.
Percy, thank you. It's been over a week since I've seen this movie, or it's been nearly a week, rather.
Yeah.
But yeah, it takes its time to build out that relationship, which is not something that I was anticipating, and I was pleasantly surprised by, is that relationship between these two, because I think it is very well acted, as you said, very well written, as you said, and is interesting as a modern take on a relationship in an R-rated comedy.
Yeah, absolutely. That is the element that I found most compelling, because the comedy, as we've been mentioning, is it was the selling point of the movie, but it's not the focus of the movie. Runtime wise, I think the editing for me, or at least the pacing of the film, more felt like we're going to set up a relationship that's really, really crazy and filled with these comedy moments. And there's some classic setups of one person's not telling the other person the full truth,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
what kind of moment is this going to spin out? And that's fine by me. I've seen so many of those, it doesn't feel special, but I think it's perfectly well done here. But those comedy moments are used to set up a relationship that starts in funny places and crazy places, but then I think evolves and blossoms into something more genuine. And the crazy comedy moments actually start to peter out about halfway through the film, and they're a handful going into that last act. But otherwise, it's just about a relationship,
Yeah.
and it's that relationship that I think makes this movie as special as it is, because you're right, it is a surprisingly modern take, or not surprisingly, it's a modern movie, so
No.
but it is a modern take on the gender roles and the age difference, and the way that Jennifer Lawrence's character, because she's 10, 12 years older than Percy, what kind of differences did that leave between the two of them? And that's something I've never really seen tackled in a movie like this. And I found that to be a compelling and interesting angle to do a rom-com through, and it leads to some unique moments.
It does. Because if we want to talk about Jennifer Lawrence as the headlining star of
Yes.
this film, a big star, a big get for a movie like this, her character is given like deeper characterization than we would get from like a Steve Carell in The
Mm.
40-Year-Old
Yeah, absolutely.
Virgin. Because she has, these personal traumas and, parental grief and things like that that she has to deal with, that she's saddled with, that feeds into the person that she is when we
Hmm.
see her in the film. And we examine that lightly, I think, in
Hmm.
a very cursory point A, point B character kind of thing. And it's good, there's not necessarily anything wrong with it. It's not very deep or dense.
Mm.
Um, which is maybe why I feel a little bit lacking on the whole of No Hard
Yeah.
Feelings. That's
Mm.
like, okay, you sold me a raunchy rated R comedy.
Yeah.
Okay, you put a lot of the funny bits in the trailer, and everything outside of that in the film doesn't really serve that premise.
Hmm.
And then you surprise me with being more of a relationship movie, more of a romance even. And you don't really deeply examine anything there because we still
Mm.
have to punctuate it with
Sure.
comedic bits, which is maybe why I found the whole product a little bit lackluster. But speaking to Jennifer Lawrence, as I said I would, she's great. Like
Yeah.
I think this is a great sort of comeback for her. Like she's been
Yeah.
back in movies for a year or two now. But this is a great like revitalizing point in her career. I think a great
Yeah.
turning point potential. I think she does have great comedic chops that she's
Yeah,
presented
absolutely.
in movies in the past and in this one as well. I just like to see her maybe done maybe in something that is a bit more true to itself and confident in
Hmm.
its own premises.
Well, I think that is maybe a difference between expectations and the reality of this film, because
Hmm.
I think I would agree with you if I didn't feel the movie sold me on what it actually was while I was watching it.
Sure.
The development that you're talking about, I actually think I disagree a little bit, in that I found it to be pretty thoroughly explored in terms of how her personality and Percy's personality are interlocking and impacting one another.
Yeah.
By the end of the movie, I really felt that I had seen them go through the ringer and talk to one another multiple times. And I really do think that the movie's best scenes are the ones that are completely devoid of craziness or insane comedic sex stuff, but it's them
Hmm.
just sitting on the couch and having a genuine moment together, or sharing a moment after having coming down off of some sort of crazy comedy moment.
Hmm.
Those are where the writing is working the best, where I feel the chemistry between our two leads and the development of the characters is coming to the forefront, because there's a very big focus in this movie, and I think what makes it so unique as a rom-com is getting to know someone instead of just leaning into the physical side
Hmm.
a relationship. And that, I think, brings out some interesting themes about connecting to one another, about fixing the character flaws that Jennifer Lawrence has, about pushing other people away and not being very ghosting people a lot in
Hmm.
relationships, and watching her come to terms with the person that she's been and the barriers she's been built up. And Percy's able to, like, through his personality and being just kind of a charming, sweet guy knock those walls down. And
Hmm.
you see her change so naturally. Jennifer Lawrence's performance portrays that across the course of the movie. And I was really just, I was happy enough when something crazy was happening
Hmm.
on screen because I think the comedy moments are done really well. I think you're right. Jennifer Lawrence has some great comedic chops, but for me, I was always ready to get back to what most of the movie is runtime wise, just them getting to know one another and
Hmm.
sharing these moments and having moments of genuine conflict and tension and then resolution. And by the end, I was like, wow, this is a really compelling connection between these two characters.
Yeah. And as I say, I don't think it's bad by any measure. I think it's just I don't even know what I was going for there. It's just solid for me, and it
Sure,
doesn't
sure.
surprise me in any sense when we're actually getting to that relationship
Mm,
material.
yeah,
Like the conclusion seems foregone, and I'm not saying that's necessarily an indictment of the film, but we're hitting the beats to get there, and I'm like, yeah, okay, this is nice, but we're not putting all of our chips in that one on
true.
that
That's
table.
true.
You
Yeah,
understand what I'm saying? Yeah, we're not putting all of our chips in on raunchy comedy, and we're not putting all of our chips in really examining this
true. No,
relationship
that's
because
definitely true.
on its face value, it is still like a broadly appealing R-rated comedy.
Hmm.
So we can't, drill into that stuff super deeply.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that we want to talk about? You want to give our scores,
Well,
and maybe talk about the spoilery thing?
I think I do want to quickly mention Andrew
Sure.
Barth Feldman
Oh, of
as
course. Thank you.
Percy, who
Thank you.
is he's fantastic in this
Uh-huh.
movie. I mean, he's got a lot of really weird mannerisms. Jennifer Lawrence coming on to him and treating him in these crazy ways. And he's like, no, I don't. What's going on? Like, I don't
Hmm.
understand. And him being sort of the prototypical nervous guy who's modern age, has mostly online friends, and doesn't
Hmm.
had some bullying problems in the past that have made him distanced from other people. He's really an interesting character to dig into in the situation that he's been put in here. And Andrew Barth Feldman does a phenomenal job
No,
keeping up.
yeah.
But he also has some comedic chops. I mean, the moments of him screaming or making funny faces or doing whatever, those are equally compelling comedic moments to
Hmm.
Jennifer Lawrence, who, as we've said, also has great comedic chops.
I mean, this kid gave up going to Harvard to star in this movie.
Yeah,
Really impressive stuff from him as well. He's been in a couple things before, as I understand it.
I
But
heard,
no,
I saw on his letterbox page he's the lead in Dear Evan Hansen.
oh, oh, like the on stage.
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
okay, interesting,
yeah,
interesting. Well, and you know what, Tucker? There's a plot point in this movie where he sings. That's also
yeah,
great. Love
yeah.
that
And
moment.
that's a great scene.
It is a great scene, and the lead up to that is just a little bit of like not like slapping your knee comedy, but when he's like psyching himself up to do it, he's like fuck.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm gonna do it. Go do it.
yeah.
Fuck
And
fuck.
so this is like a mini star making performance for me. I am interested to see what he does in the future. I'd love for
Hmm.
this to get him other opportunities because he brings a unique voice to this in terms of. We've seen a lot of nervous guys have to deal with hot ladies before,
Hmm.
but he feels modern, fresh, and very genuine in the role.
Okay. Speaking of dealing with hot ladies, I want to talk about the one big scene, the crown jewel of No Hard
Sure.
Feelings. But before that, I'll give a score and say 5.5.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna go significantly higher at a 7.6. I think this movie really uh sold itself to me on a personal level that I wasn't expecting. And that I think you were talking about it not surprising you on the comedy side, but I think because it wasn't the comedy, it ended up surprising me and subverting my expectations of it. And I was more pleased with the product, with the film at the end, the story it told and the characters that it explored. So it definitely resonated with me a little more than it seems it did you.
Okay, yeah, for sure. Um, so the fight on the beach, the
Sure.
the the skinny dipping scene that turns into a full on like WWE SmackDown match,
Mm.
the best part of the movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, talking if we're talking about expectations, completely unexpected.
Hmm.
And as much as I say that this film maybe even takes itself a little bit too safely with
Mm.
its raunchy comedy, that is the one moment where I'm like, okay, we're reaching the heights of what people expect when you say
Yeah,
raunchy R-rated comedy. We
yeah,
are maybe even exceeding those expectations. That is the fever pitch. We are peaking in that very moment, and my theater was reacting to it. I was reacting to it because it came at such an unexpected moment. It went on for like a
yeah,
significant amount of time, which it improves that like I can't believe this is happening sort
yeah.
of laugh factor. And I ended up like, that's the moment that I'm going to remember out of it. That's
Sure.
the moment that's going to define No Hard Feelings, I think, as a film.
Yeah, that's interesting because I like that scene. It
Yeah.
certainly was a surprise. You're right. It was the one element they didn't like show completely in it. The element that actually closes it, they sort of teased in the trailer,
Yeah.
which is Percy being naked on the front of the
Oh
car
yeah,
going
and
by,
then
and they run over the train track.
yeah, goes seamlessly into that
Yeah, which is also a
set piece as
great
well.
set piece moment. But while I like those moments, I when you said there was one big moment that this movie didn't show in the trailers, and that
Hmm.
was the big thing that you'll take away here. I was like racking my brain, like, what could he be talking about? Like,
Hmm.
because I like that scene, but for
Yeah.
me, it was when they were back home. He was at her place for the first time. He
Yeah.
was wearing her clothes and was like talking about, oh my god, I can't believe we just did that. That was so cool. You were a badass on the
Hmm.
beach. And then they find out he has a rash on his back, and she's applying the ointment. They're talking about their life. I'm like, that was the first time that I got really into the movie. I
Yeah,
liked
sure,
that
and that's
comedy
like the
scene
first
beforehand,
big
but
like sweet scene that those
yeah.
two characters share, and I totally understand that. And maybe this is like I reiterating the point, but like yeah, like I think the relationship stuff is nice and sweet between
Mhm.
Percy and Maddie, but ultimately I'm looking for highs. If we're talking
Mm.
about, I'm looking for the fever pitch moments. If we're talking
Mm.
about raunchy R-rated, really drilling into that. And I wanted to bring this up as well about how it is a modern version of that, because
Yeah.
people have been saying over and over that this has been missing from the modern like cinematic lineup going into
Mhm.
theaters, that comedy is a lot of times on streaming now.
Yeah.
I find No Hard Feelings a really interesting product to be like, if it does make a comeback, the one that brings back the R-rated
Mhm.
comedy. Because it is more personable, as
Yeah.
you've been saying, and I don't dissuade the movie from being that. I think it's quite interesting. It just didn't connect with me really.
Yeah.
Um, but I do find it interesting that like potentially going forward, we will have our R-rated comedies maybe not as focused on being the big raunchy bits where we're doing drugs and
Mhm.
looking at boobs and stuff
Those will
like
come
that.
back.
Well,
Also, see Joyride in 2 weeks.
yeah, exactly. Precisely, Tucker. Precisely.
Yes.
Um, and we are more about our characters, which is
Yeah.
not really
Yeah.
something that can be said of this genre.
True. Yeah, and
And
and I
yeah,
like that turn. To be completely frank, I think that this movie connected to me a lot more than other raunchy comedies have. And those moments aren't the ones that the crazy moments aren't the ones that stick with me from these movies. It is the dynamic between the characters, the not necessarily fully romance that they have, but the friendship and the bond that they end up building
hmm,
across the course of the film. I found to be very compelling and fresh for this
yeah,
kind of movie. So I'm very glad I saw it. I was a little bit hesitant going in. I don't even really know why. Like I was interested by the trailers, but I was like,
yeah,
am I gonna like this? I
yeah,
actually think it was because you gave it a 5 out of 10 on
yeah,
Letterboxd, and I was like, oh, maybe this is gonna be mid as hell, but then it actually wasn't for me.
yeah,
Um, but we actually do have another comedy coming out soon, another raunchy R-rated comedy
yeah,
in
yeah.
Joyride that we were lucky enough to see earlier. And if you're looking for craziness and constant highs and lots of insane premises, these actually they form kind of a nice double feature.
You know what I would say, Tucker? If I could cross my eyes and get like the perfect mixture of Joyride and No Hard Feelings, I think that would be like the perfect R-rated comedy for
Sure.
me. I felt
Yeah.
Joyride was maybe lacking some of the character stuff that we get in here, some of the
Mm.
that exploration of
Yeah.
friendship and relationship. But No Hard Feelings was really lacking like the I can't believe I'm seeing this on film
Yeah. Yeah.
of the R-rated comedy. So just finding that middle ground right
Yeah.
there is
Yeah.
that where I'd like to operate.
Maybe you can do the thing where you play them both at the
Oh,
same time,
simultaneously?
or the thing that they actually did with Transformers and Little Mermaid, where they put them
Oh,
on
they
top of one
overlay them on one
another.
another? That's a five-star
Yeah.
film then.
Boom.
Perfect,
There we
perfect.
go.
Yeah.
Well, if you're gonna go watch that movie, let us know. And thank you very much for joining us, guys, for this review.
I don't know.
How much time did you spend watching Mickey Mouse Clubhouse
When I
as a
was a
wee
young
lad?
lad, personally, first-handedly, none. Because that was a baby show, Tucker. But my sister watched it a lot.
I never. I was above that.
Please, yes. I watched. I don't know.
And frankly, I resent the accusation.
What were the adult shows that were on when I was a kid? I don't know.
Generator
Uh,
Rex.
The West Wing.